In recent market signals, collectors of Ken Griffin scale continue to consolidate positions in Basquiat, not as isolated acquisitions, but as part of a broader control over the blue-chip segment. Over the past years, and especially in the last 5 to 7, Jean-Michel Basquiat's works have increasingly moved into the hands of a very limited circle of ultra-high net worth capital. Among those collectors are figures of the scale of Ken Griffin. This is not new. But what has changed is the pattern of accumulation. In 2016, Ken Griffin acquired Basquiat's Untitled 1982 for approximately $100 million. At the time, it was presented as a record. But it was not just a record, it was a signal. In that same period, he also participated in the acquisition of Willem de Kooning works, totaling around $300 million. On the surface, this looked like collecting, but in its underlying logic, it already resembled positioning within an asset class. Basquiat, in the 1980s, was a figure of rupture, street origin, social and cultural tension, a critique of institutions. But in the current market, he performs a different function. He is no longer a symbol of resistance. He has become an anchor of value. This does not diminish his artistic significance, but it fundamentally alters his role within the system. If we look not at individual transactions, but at their accumulation, a different structure begins to emerge. The most important works do not return to the open market. They move differently, into private collections, into long-term institutional loans, into controlled forms of visibility. Formally, they remain public. Functionally, their circulation is restricted. And when circulation becomes restricted, price behaves differently. It is no longer formed solely at the point of transaction. It begins to form within the structure of ownership itself. Within the market, this is rarely stated openly, but it is quietly understood. Certain works are not simply acquired, they are positioned, sometimes through private transactions negotiated long before auctions, sometimes through relationships that determine which works are allowed to surface, and sometimes through a sequence of institutional appearances that align with market momentum with a level of precision that appears organic. This is not a scandal. It is a structural possibility, and it exists because the system allows it to exist. Which brings us to a more precise question. Why Basquiat? Because Basquiat sits at the intersection of institutional recognition, market liquidity, cultural symbolism, and global demand. He is the ideal candidate to become not just an object of collection, but an instrument of concentration. And if that is the case, then the question shifts. Are we still observing a market, or are we observing a structure that determines what the market gets to see?